Hare Krishna. So they did the tacos today? Taco Tuesday? Okay. Can't start until you sit down. Okay. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paravajakacharya Ashtottara Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paravajakacharya Ashtottara Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavin Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. Okay, we'll be on page 537 today. beginning our study of text 8 to 12. This is going to take a few days. Very important section here. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 8th day of October 2024 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 13 entitled Nature, the Enjoyer and Consciousness, text 8 to 12. And we'll just chant the first one tonight. Amanitvam, Adambhitvam, Ahimsa, Shantir, Arjavam, Acharyopasanam, Shaucham, Staryam, Atmavaningraha, Amanitvam Adambhitvam, Ahimsa Chantir Arjavam, Acharyopasanam Shaucham, Staryam Atmavaningraha, Amanitvam Adambhitvam, Ahimsa Chantir Arjavam, Acharyopasanam Shaucham, Stayam Atmavaningraha, Amanitvam Adambhitvam, Ahimsa Chantir Arjavam, Acharyopasanam Shaucham, Stayam Atmavaningraha, Amanitvam Adambhitvam, Ahimsa Chantir Arjavam, Acharyopasanam Shaucham, Stayam Atmavaningraha, Amanitvam Adambhitvam, Ahimsa Chantir Arjavam, Acharyopasanam Shaucham, Stayam Atmavaningraha. Ladies? Amanitvam Adambhitvam, Ahimsa Chantir Arjavam, Acharyopasanam Shaucham, Stayam Atmavaningraha. Anyone else over here? No? Okay, go ahead. Amanitvam Adambhitvam, Ahimsa Chantir Arjavam, Acharyopasanam Shaucham, Stayam Atmavaningraha. Okay. Anyone online? Chad? No Chad tonight. Tapas? Amanitvam Adambhitvam,
Ahimsa Shantir Arjavam,
Ahimsa Chantir Arjavam,
Acharyopasanam Shaucham,
Acharyopasanam Shaucham,
Stayam Atma Vinigraha.
Stayam Atmavaningraha.
Bhakta chat is still here.
Can you hear me? Hare Krishna.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Amanitvam Adambhitvam,
Amanitvam Adambhitvam,
Ahimsa Chantir Arjavam,
Ahimsa Chantir Arjavam,
Acharyopasanam Shaucham,
Acharyopasanam Shaucham,
Stayam Atma Vinigraha.
Stayam Atmavaningraha. We have to have an intermission. Dr. Chad,
Yes, Hare Krishna.
how are you doing? Are you going to be back soon?
Pretty soon. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we can talk later.
You sound pretty healthy.
I'm feeling pretty good.
Anyway, good.
Thank you.
Good to hear from you, Haribo.
You too. Hare Krishna.
Okay, I'm going to read the rest of the Sanskrit, and we'll just do the word by words for the first verse, and we'll break this up into a few days. Indriyateshu vairagyam manohankara evacha janma mrityu jara vyari dukkha doshana darshanam asaktirana vishwanga putra dara graharishu nityam cha samachittatvam ishtanishtopapatishu mahichananya yogena bhaktir abhyavicharini viviktadesha sevidvam aratir janasangsari adhyatma jnana nityatvam tattva jnanartha darshanam eta jnanam iti proktam ajnanam hiratonyata. All right, I'm going to read the word by word for the first verse, and then I'll read the translation. All right. Amanitvam, humility, adambitvam, pridelessness, ahimsa, non-violence, chantihi, tolerance, arjavam, simplicity, acharya, upasanam, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, shaucham, cleanliness, staryam, steadfastness, and atma vinigraha, self-control. All right, translation. Whoops. Okay. Translation. Humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of the object of sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of the evil of birth, death, old age, and disease, detachment, freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home, and the rest, even-mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unalloyed devotion to me, aspiring to live in a solitary place, detachment from the general mass of people, accepting the importance of self-realization, and philosophical search for the absolute truth. All these I declare to be knowledge, and besides this, whatever there may be, is ignorance. Okay, we'll do part of this purport now. Purport. This process of knowledge is sometimes misunderstood by less intelligent men as being the interaction of the field of activity. But actually, this is the real process of knowledge. If one accepts this process, then the possibility of approaching the absolute truth exists. This is not the interaction of the 24 elements as described before. This is actually the means to get out of the entanglement of those elements. The embodied soul is entrapped by the body, which is a casing made of the 24 elements, and the process of knowledge, as described here, is the means to get out of it. Of all the descriptions of the process of knowledge, the most important point is described in the first line of the 11th verse, Mahichananya yogena bhaktir avyabhicharini. The process of knowledge terminates in unalloyed devotional service to the Lord. So if one does not approach or is not able to approach the transcendental service of the Lord, then the other 19 items are of no particular value. But if one takes to devotional service in full Krishna consciousness, the other 19 items automatically develop within him. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 5.18.12, Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavati kinchana sarvaya gunais tattva samasate suraha. All the good qualities of knowledge develop in one who has attained the stage of devotional service. The principle of accepting a spiritual master, as mentioned in the 8th verse, is essential. Even for one who takes to devotional service, it is most important. Transcendental life begins when one accepts a bona fide spiritual master. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, clearly states here that this process of knowledge is the actual path. Anything speculated beyond this is nonsense. Okay, so now we'll start the different items. As for the knowledge outlined here, the items may be analyzed as follows. Humility, that's amanitvam, means that one should not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. The material conception of life makes us very eager to receive honor from others. But from the point of view of a man in perfect knowledge, who knows that he is not this body, anything, honor or dishonor, pertaining to this body is useless. One should not be hankering after this material deception. People are very anxious to be famous for their religion, and consequently sometimes it is found that without understanding the principles of religion, one enters into some group which is not actually following religious principles and then wants to advertise himself as a religious mentor. As for actual advancement in spiritual science, one should have a test to see how far he is progressing. He can judge by these items. Okay. Nonviolence is generally taken to mean not killing or destroying the body, but actually nonviolence means not to put others into distress. People in general are trapped by ignorance in the material concept of life, and they perpetually suffer material pains. So unless one elevates people to spiritual knowledge, one is practicing violence. One should try his best to distribute real knowledge to the people so that they may become enlightened and leave this material entanglement. That is nonviolence. The next one is chanti. Tolerance means that one should be practiced to bear insult and dishonor from others. If one is engaged in the advancement of spiritual knowledge, there will be so many insults and much dishonor from others. This is expected because material nature is so constituted. Even a boy like Prahlad, who, only 5 years old, was engaged in the cultivation of spiritual knowledge, was endangered when his father became antagonistic to his devotion. The father tried to kill him in so many ways, but Prahlad tolerated him. So there may be many impediments to making advancement in spiritual knowledge, but we should be tolerant and continue our progress with determination. Next is arjavam, simplicity. Simplicity means that without diplomacy, one should be so straightforward that he can disclose the real truth even to an enemy. We're on page 540 of the book. You want to take a book? Simplicity means that without diplomacy, one should be so straightforward that he can disclose the real truth even to an enemy. As for the acceptance of the spiritual master, that's the next one, acharyopasanam. That is essential because without the instruction of a bona fide spiritual master, one cannot progress in the spiritual science. One should approach the spiritual master with all humility and offer him all services so that he will be pleased to bestow his blessings upon the disciple. Because the bona fide spiritual master is a representative of Krishna, if he bestows any blessings upon his disciple, that will make the disciple immediately advanced without the disciples following the regulative principles. Or the regulative principles will be easier for one who has served the spiritual master without reservation. Next is shaucham. Cleanliness is essential for making advancement in spiritual life. There are two kinds of cleanliness, external and internal. External cleanliness means taking a bath. But for internal cleanliness, one has to think of Krishna always and chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This process cleans the accumulated dust of past karma from the mind. Next comes stharyam. Steadiness. Steadiness means that one should be very determined to make progress in spiritual life. Without such determination, one cannot make tangible progress. Okay, and then the next one's the last one we'll do. And self-control means that one should not accept anything which is detrimental to the path of spiritual progress. One should become accustomed to this and reject anything which is against the path of spiritual progress. Okay, and that is real renunciation. So that's the purport to the first verse. So we'll stop there. Om jnana timirandasya jnanandana shalakaya chakshu unmilitam mena tasmai shri gurave namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So when you think about these things, there's 20 of them, I think Prabhupada says. And elements of knowledge, obviously many of these are means by which one can attain knowledge. Just like acharyopasanam, worshipping a spiritual master, accepting a spiritual master. So clearly that opens the channel to achieve knowledge of, which is what we've just been studying up to now, of the field, the knowers of the field, the individual soul and the super soul, prakriti, that's material energy, what's it constituted of, how do we interact with it, what is the whole science like that. So that kind of knowledge is not mentioned here in these 8, but there's so many qualities here that one should develop which result in knowledge, which enable one to attain knowledge. So the first is this amanitvam. Amanitvam. Now, does anyone know the famous verse? Trinarapi sunichena, tororapi sahishnana. Next? Okay. Amanina, manidena. There's the word, amanina. This is amanitvam, see? So this is pride. So, if you're going to be as humble as a blade of grass, you're going to be prideless. You've got to be really prideless to be like that, right? So, and not only to be prideless, but it's amanina manadena, and willing to and eager to honor those who are worthy of honor. In other words, one of our sources of happiness in Krishna consciousness is to glorify Krishna and glorify his devotees, glorify his abode, everything about him. And then one finds oneself in a very happy state. Just like the essence of all that is chanting Hare Krishna, the Sankirtan. What are we doing? We're glorifying the Lord, we're praying to the Lord, you see? So that's a sign of that you're not doing it. All right, are they watching as I'm dancing? I picked up a new dance step. Nothing like that. It's just like, Haribol, And the Lord appreciates that, and that opens up the channel again for his feeling happiness in Krishna consciousness. Now, adamba is an interesting word, because if you look it up in the dictionary, you'll probably find something like hypocrisy. And when you think of hypocrisy, it's a certain kind of hypocrisy, and that is when Prabhupada called it pridelessness, right? And so it's the idea of false pride. Because you can be proud of something you're actually, but false pride means that you're pretending to be something you're not. And especially in this context, you're pretending to be religious when you're really just making a show. Because it's just like I think of Kamsa, right? Kamsa was deterred from cutting off the head of his cousin's sister. They're really cousins, Devaki and Kamsa. When he had the omen that the eighth child of this son, the eighth son of this, actually it was child, the eighth child of this lady will kill you. So Kamsa freaked out, but he was deterred by Vasudev. He appealed to Kamsa's sense of pride, of damba. And that is it'll look bad for me. It'll look very bad for you if you kill your sister at the time of her marriage. Okay, if it'll look bad, I'll desist, I'll wait till the eighth son is born. Not that he really had any mercy, But that's the thing. Whenever I think about this word, and I think about the context of Hare Krishna. I remember a long time ago, this is probably none of you are old enough to remember this magazine. But everyone knows about Time magazine, right? It's probably still going on, right? But with the internet, it's, less. But that used to be one of the main news magazines. And another one was Life. It's called Life. You remember that? Big format, full of pictures. That was the big thing, a lot of pictures, And it had a competitor look. It had life and look. So in this magazine, I distinctly remember this. They once had a feature on the New York Mafia, believe it or not. And they had pictures of the main figures in that mafia, And none of them looked very blissful, believe it or not. They all looked angry and upset because a lot of these photographs were like mugshots, But anyway, it's classic because they go to church, A lot of them, they're Catholic. There are a lot of Italians, And so they go to church, but they're demons. They're heartless. They kill you, and tie your feet, put a rock on, throw you in the water, So, but I thought of this rogues gallery, and I think about this damba, wanting to look religious because it looks good, and you get, influence in the society. So that's really what. But you have to be free of that hypocrisy to really be honest with yourself and don't try to present yourself as something you're not. And then the importance of ahimsa. Now, ahimsa naturally we say, that's Gandhi, or that's the Buddhists, right? The Buddhists especially, and don't do any violence to anyone. And we think, that's part of what giving up eating meat is, because it's horrible. So, and that's the essence of it. But Prabhupada said, and I think he says in this purport here, he said, nonviolence, at the bottom of page 539, nonviolence is generally taken to mean not killing or destroying the body. But actually, nonviolence means not to put others into distress. So it's more than just a physical thing. It's also not, causing anyone any emotional distress and things like that. But another meaning is, Prabhupada would sometimes stress, not interrupting or not, not interrupting someone's progress in life. You know that? Is that violence means if you're telling someone something, you're teaching them wrong, even though you may not know it, but you're doing violence to them. He would call these universities, in the Bhagavatam, you'll see in the first canto, slaughterhouses. Because the kids are growing up and they're learning all these things, but there's no teaching about this essential knowledge. He probably went to MIT once, this famous Massachusetts Institute of Technology, And he went there, and of course, there's very, very smart students, and they were appreciative of what he was saying. And then he asked them, okay, where's the department in this university to teach the difference between the body and the soul? No hands went up. That's lesson number 1 of the Bhagavad Gita. Without understanding that, there's no entry into spiritual life, you see? So this is a very violent society in many kinds of ways. And the most tragic kind is that they're ignorant. Out of ignorance, they're teaching the ignorance. What are those the 4 defects that everyone material has? Well, we have these. I like to do it in order. We have this imperfect senses. No one can deny that, right? The senses are limited. But we tend to get form our sense of reality and what the truth is by the result of these senses. This is the ascending process of knowledge, which is always faulty, because it doesn't access the soul or God or any of these things. It's just based on the senses. So you have these imperfect senses, and because of that, we make mistakes, and those mistakes can become embedded and taught as the truth. And the biggest mistake is that we think we're the body. So, and we make mistakes, and when those mistakes are repeated again and again, they become known. Then that's called illusioned. We become illusion, you see? And then when we teach the illusion as truth, that's called cheating. So that's these 4 defects. And the spiritual master, the genuine acharyas, they don't have those mistakes. The senses are imperfect, but they don't regard what they can just understand with their senses as the source of real knowledge. The senses can confirm, or when they support the knowledge that we get from the Shastra and the realized souls. But to try to build a worldview around sense perception is vast illusion. That's the great illusion. So the amanitvam adambitvam. And then ahimsa we did, non-violence in all its dimensions. And then shanti. Now shanti it means tolerance, and it's a kind of tolerance. It really means forgiving. It's tolerating wrongs that someone may do to you. There's also titiksha. Titiksha is more like being tolerant of some physical pain. That's it. But they also overlap, because titiksha kanunita, these are the qualities of a sadhu. Now the sadhu, you have to be tolerant in order to be really merciful and give Krishna consciousness out, because you're going to get so much opposition. And what's the perfect example? Jesus Christ. Prabhupada would invoke. Even though he was threatened, and even though they actually crucified him, he didn't stop preaching, God consciousness. So he's a very good example, and all the great acharyas show that, Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta, all of them. So that's chantir, forgiveness and tolerance of others' wrongs upon you. And let's see, what else? Next is arjavan, simplicity. Simplicity means that without diplomacy, one should be so straightforward that he can disclose the real truth even to an enemy. So that's quite a standard, not so easy to. But simplicity means in all different ways to simplify your living condition, so you don't get wrapped up in identifying with all your properties and all these things. Because these things are all form knots in your heart. These famous Vidya Granthi. The more simply you live, the less you have any built-in attachment to this world. You see. But if you have all these properties and all this money and all these relations, then you're deeply enmeshed in Maya, and it's difficult. That's why you find the great devotees, they're living very simple lives. The perfect example is the 6 Goswamis. You know, they minimized even the sleeping arrangement. All right, they slept under a tree. Hey, this is my tree, Sanatan. You can get different. No, different tree every night. They didn't have their own tree even. They had no attachment. And eating, they would go madhukari, would they get a little bit here. They didn't get a lot from one person, so they become dependent. They little here, little here, little here, you see. So that's a minimum eating and sleeping and housing, you know, as simple as you get. So there's this famous verse, Tyaktva turna mashesha mandala patishening sadat tuchavat Bhutva dina ganeshakao karunaya kopina kantashito. Kopi bhavada samatabda lahadi kallola magno mahur vande rupa sanatano ragyagoshi jiva gopalago. I offer my humble obeisance of the 6 Goswamis, namely Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, and Gopal Bhatta Goswami, and I think I left one out. Oh. Anyway, the 6 Goswamis. Rupa Sanatana, Raghu Yago, Jiva Goswami. I'm sorry. Please forgive me, Jiva Goswami. Hare Krishna. How could I forget? So now this verse describes especially 3, Rupa, Sanatan, and Raghunath. They were millionaires. What would be millionaires? Rupa Goswami cashed out when he surrendered to Lord Chaitanya, you know, planning to go to Vrindavan. He had a boatload full of gold. You realize how valuable it is today? Billions of dollars. Gold is like almost $3,000 an ounce right now. It's ridiculous. I keep track of that. It tells me where the society is. And Sanatan was also, he was the prime minister, and Rupa was the finance minister, I think, you know. Raghunath Das was the sole heir to a huge fortune. His uncle was named Hiranya Majumdar. I don't know if that was his nickname or not. Hiranya means gold, you know. And Govardhan Majum was his father. So they were devotees, sincere Vaishnavas, but they're extremely wealthy. And he was married, a very beautiful wife and everything. He just, when he got attracted to Lord Chaitanya, he just tried to escape. They had to have a whole guards to keep him from running away. You know, then eventually he lied to his spiritual master. He was initiated by, you know, Yadavacharya. And he said that he was going to go do some puja, you know, and he just took off. And he went to Lord Chaitanya in Puri, and from the beginning he dialed up the renunciation more and more. When he first arrived in Puri, his father said, "Okay, he wants to live there. I'll send him a stipend every month, you know, so he can maintain." So at first he was accepting it, and what he would really do with the money, he would invite all the sannyasis for a big feast to prasadam, you know. And Lord Chaitanya was going, and you know, like that. But then after a while, he stopped inviting him. So he asked Swarup Damodar what happened. So, well, Raghunath Das was thinking, this is ridiculous. I've taken sannyas, and I'm taking this big stipend from my father. So he just told him to go home, you know, because his father would send him with the horsemen. He'd say, go home. So then he said, well, how's he eating? You know, oh, well, he's standing on the steps of the Jagannath temple. And when all the Brahmins and the priests are ready to go home, they all have their packets of prasad, you know. So he gets a little bit of each from each one. He begs some in this way. He says, oh, that's very good, very renounced. But then after some time, he didn't see him there. And so he asked Subha, what happened with the Raghunath? I don't see him on the stairs anymore. So yes, he was thinking, oh, I'm just like a prostitute, you know. He said, I know this one gave me yesterday, so I'll go and approach him, and this one didn't give me. And I said, I don't like that. So he said, okay, so how's he eating? He's going to I just visualize a pasture with a fence over it, and where the cows are. And, you know, they cook a tremendous amount of prasadam, even in those days, right? And 52 offerings a day or something. So anyone who comes will get fed, right? So, but there's stuff left over after. So they take the rice and they throw it over the fence for the cows, you see. But even it's too much for the cows. So after a while it starts rotting a little bit. So that's the rice he's taken. He's washing it off and that's what he's eating. So Lord Chaitanya, he went to see Raghunath Das. He said, I hear you're eating this wonderful prasad. Where is it? You're keeping it from me. It's a Raghunath Das. It's not fit for you. So he found it. He started eating it to encourage him. But Raghunath Das was known for that, for like increasing the kind of dialing up the renunciation more and more. When he went to Vrindavan, he practically wasn't eating at all. Every third day he'd take a little butter, a little pat of butter or something, very thin, He lived until over 70. So anyway, he was the exemplar of that. But this song says Chakva Turnam Ashesha. They immediately gave it up. They'd say, well, should I or shouldn't I? No, Chakva Turnam means immediately. Ashesha Mandali, with all the accoutrements of the royal order that the Rupa and Sanat were in and so on. Chakva Ashesha Mandali Shrening Sadat Tuchavat. They gave it all up as insignificant. And then what did they do? They went to Vrindavan, Budva Dina Ganeshako, in order to give mercy to the most wretched, Dina Gana, Eshiko, to become leaders of them and give them a chance to have Krishna consciousness. Kopina Kantashito, they put on the simple kopind and a little rejected, this would be too fancy for them. They want to find something that's rejected, that's thrown away, clean it up and wear it, They were just, so they lived that simply. But then, the third line, Gopi Bhava Rasamritabda Dhali Kallola Magno Mahur. The result of all that is that they had all this time, to cultivate the highest form of bhakti, and they were diving and swimming in the highest levels of prema bhakti, the love of the gopis for Krishna. Gopi Bhava Rasamritabda Lahari, the waves of the nectar of that. So that they were living at the high. They had the greatest wealth, real wealth, the spiritual wealth. But all of them showed that. So that's the epitome of simple living. To say enough, arjavam, simple. And then of course acharyopasanam, the acceptance of a spiritual master, is essential. Now, just this word acharya, we understand. Oh, that's acharya. The gurus are acharya. Yes, but it means this very specific thing. Acharya comes from the word achar, which means behavior, activity. So an acharya means someone who is completely conversant with the Shastra, lives very strictly according to the injunctions of the Shastra, and teaches it to others. That's the acharya, those three elements, you see. So one has to find an acharya who's worshipable. And you understand that worship also goes to Krishna, right? Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado. You get the mercy of the guru, then you get the mercy of Krishna. Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasad. Yasya prasadat nagati gatopi. And I always have to tell the singers, make sure it's yasya prasadam on the second line, because it means yasya aprasadam, just the opposite. Is there a difference between soluble and to be what do you say? Illusioned and disillusioned? They're just the opposite, right? We want to be disillusioned. So anyway, the general tendency is just to make those long A's short. To make to lose the long A. So, but you have to be careful in this one, because otherwise the second line, which says yasya prasada nagati katopi, without the mercy or the grace of the acharya, of the spiritual master, you can't make any advancement. But if you just, if you forget that and say, yasya prasada, bhagavat prasada, yasya prasada, nagati katopi. You're saying by the grace of the spiritual master, one can get Krishna's grace. Yasya prasada, bhagavat prasada. And then the second line says, by the grace of the spiritual master, you can make no advancement. You see, that's what you're saying. So if you're ever in a Mangalarti, be sure that it's yasya, second line. So, but the point here is that worshiping the spiritual master is an essential part of knowledge. In fact, all of the other things come through that. Shaucham, cleanliness. Now that's probably makes the point in other places. That's internal and external cleanliness is important. External cleanliness, as he said, it means taking a bath. There's another place. I don't think it's here, where he was listing, examples of being clean, taking bath, shaving, and things like that, But the shaving had been omitted from the Macmillan Gita, the first Gita that came out, because Hayagriva, he liked to keep that beard, so the editor was keeping the beard, so he extended that. So that was restored. Shaving. Sometimes it's shaving up just means shaving your beard, then you can do the head later, All right, we're almost through that first verse. I think we'll have to do another one. Starium, steadiness. Steadiness. Of course, that, what does Prabhupada say? Simplicity, a spiritual master, one should, okay. Cleanliness is essential. There are two kinds of cleanliness. External, internal. External, it means taking a bath. Internal cleanliness, chant Hare Krishna. Steadiness means that one should be very determined to make progress in spiritual life. Without such determination, one cannot make tangible progress. So it's good to consult, if you're serious about, really advancing, the Nectar of Instruction. The Nectar of Instruction is a small book, 11 essential verses. That's what it means. Upadesha Amrita, the Nectar of Instruction. And so the first verse actually defines how you can recognize a spiritual master. He said, Vacho vegam, manasakroda vegam, jifa vegam, urodopasta vegam, etan vegam, yovishaheta dhira, sarvam apimam pratabing sashishyat. Because the first step is really finding someone who's worthy of taking shelter of. So you can see these are qualities you can observe. So there's various vegas, pushings. The pushing the talk. Somehow, when this book first came out, I was riding the bus in New York a lot, somewhere in the temple. And I always knew that, you go on the bus, and there's a jabber. Two people are together, there's all kinds of conversations going on, everything. I'm chanting. So this is the urge to speak. And everyone knows, it just happens. A bunch of people get together, and they'll speak. They won't speak about Krishna, but they'll speak about all kinds of things, So that's an urge to speak that has to be, you see that the person only speaks about Krishna. Vacho, manasa kodave, the urgings of the mind, things that you get addicted to, in the mind, or subtle things that you're attached to thinking in this way or reading this. So many ways the mind itself can push you to act in a certain way. Then kroda, that's the obvious one. You become angry at someone, you can do something that you'll regret the rest of your life, right? So the anger can be a very powerful force. And then those are subtle pushings, then the gross pushings. Kroda vegam, jifa vegam, urodopasta vegam, the urge to eat tasty foods. I shop at Ralph sometimes. Basically, I go in there for basically two items. One is organic blueberries, frozen blueberries, which I put in my smoothie. They're very good for you. And the other is distilled water, which I put in my iron, so I iron things, Otherwise it gets encrusted in there. So, but sometimes I go down one alley, one aisle, and it's all the snacks on both sides, There's Doritos and this snack and that snack. Or I may go down this alley, and it's all alcoholic beverages. So many varieties, what's the big deal? This gets. But the snacking, you can get addicted to that also. So that's the tongue is telling you. That's why there's growing a problem of obesity in America. People are eating all this junk food, watching the Netflix and. Okay. So the jiva vegam and udara vegam, the urge of the belly. And the genitals, of course, there's so many urges. So if you find someone who can control those, is controlling, then that person is able to do it because they're Krishna conscious. That's the acharya. So that's the mention there of starium, means steady. So then in the Upadeshamrita, it describes 6 things that are favorable and 6 things that can block your devotional service. So the favorable ones, I think, has this starium in it. Utsaha nishchaya dharyat. That dharyat in the context means enthusiasm, Utsaha nishtayad means determination and patience. Very important. Utsaha nidayat tattad karma pravartanat. Now, enthusiasm and patience in regard to what? In regard to doing all of the things that we know we should do in Krishna consciousness. Tattad karma pravartanat. Sangha tyagat. This is twice, in the things you should not do, it's mentioned, if you want, that you should avoid, and that will break your devotion, and this one is that you avoid. Sangha tyaga. In this way, sangha means associating with non-devotees. So sangha tyaga means giving up such association and associating with it. And soto vritte, following in the footsteps of devotees. Just like Prabhupada, he gave us not only the knowledge, but he gave us his whole association and, trying to act like he did, as best as possible, And so that was, the example of advanced devotees is also very important, so following in the footsteps. So these are some of the things that are conducive to devotion. And then Atman Vinigraha, that's, self-control in all this, controlling the subtle body, the mind, the intelligence, and all these things, by linking up to Krishna, by engaging them all in Krishna consciousness. All right, any comments on any of these? These are very important, practical. And we can do one more verse. Oh, okay, go ahead, Boo. Wait, look, you have it right behind you.
Hare Krishna, thank you for the class.
Haribol.
So it says about the eyes, that one should always see Krishna.
Uh-huh.
So that means seeing
Now where is that? That's in the
yeah.
Is it in
maybe
the translation?
Yeah,
No.
I went a little bit further, maybe. On
Okay.
Page 541.
541. Oh, you're reading ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, that will control the eyes. Okay, as far as the eyes are concerned, they should not be allowed to see anything but the beautiful form of Krishna. That will control the eyes. Okay, well, how can we do that?
So that means seeing Krishna in every living being
Yeah,
also?
that we've already seen in the 7th chapter, especially, where the 6th chapter was all about meditation, and Arjun said, I can't do it, and Krishna said, you don't have to. Right, at the end, he says, Yoginamba Bisarvishramagate, one who is always thinking of me within, who is worshiping me with great and transcendental faith, he's the best yogi. But in the 7th chapter, it's very interesting. Prabhupada gave at least a dozen lectures on that first verse of the 7th chapter. He was going to different cities in India, and wherever he went, he spoke on that. It's very fascinating. Maya Saktamanaparta. Now I'm going to teach you how you can become attached to me. The mind can naturally become attached to me without this impossibility of sitting up in the Himalayas, by seeing me within everything. And practical. Okay, Rasoham, Apsakonteya, Pabasmi, Shasisuryabo. I am the taste of water. I am the light of the sun and the moon. I am the fragrance of the earth. I am the ability in man. I am this, all in that. All the things that we encounter every day. But if you remember what Krishna says, then you can see him in all these things. Now, what does it mean that, I am the light of the sun? All right, you see the light of the sun and you think, oh, Krishna, he's controlling the sun, he's manifesting the sun. So then you can think of the form of Krishna. Speaking on the battlefield, Kurukshetra, he said that, So that's how, whatever you see Krishna. There's a verse like that in the CC, I forget the Bengali. But that's really the advanced devotees, because it's just like if you, Prabhupada gives the example, it's a wonderful example. A child, figure like this, the first day of school, the mother's been with the child, is always, and then the first day of school, the child is a little apprehensive, but he's given over to the teacher, mommy, mommy, mommy. I'll see you at 3 o'clock, And so now she's separate from the kid for the first day, right? So she's going home, she goes home and she's cleaning up his room and she sees the shoes that he wore when he was only 2, oh. Is she moved by the shoe? No, she's moved by the child. So the shoe, you remember Krishna that way. And that's really how we should arrange our lives, where everything reminds you of Krishna. Can you imagine? You'd see a tree, that reminds me of Girdhari, I remember how we used to run among the trees in Vrindavan, and now these trees, yeah. So that's the idea about seeing. The ideal, Premanjana Chudita Bhakti Vilochanena. This is from the Brahma Samhita, famous verse, that the great devotees, Premanjana Chudita Bhakti Vilochanena, Santa Sadaiva, Santa the saints, the devotees, Sadaiva Vidayesha Vilokayanti. So when the eyes are anointed with the salve of prema, then at every moment, the great devotees, they see within their heart the form of Shyamasundar. You see? Shyamasundar. Premanjanat churita bhakti vilochanena santa sadaiva vidayeshu vilokayanti. They always see within their heart, remembering him. So that's the perfection of the eyes. You're seeing Krishna everywhere. And when you see the embodied souls, you see Krishna's servants. They just have to be reminded and trained, and then they can again manifest that. So that's the idea. Let's see. And now we've got to the point where I think I can just do a few poems, because otherwise we're going to run out of time. All right, so we were up in Laguna Beach, and I did this one poem. It's inspired by a painting. Just a background, back in 2004, that's over 20 years ago, my old friend Sura, it's about 20 years ago, he suggested that, have you ever seen the BBT calendar you hang up on the wall? It's got the paintings, and we write some captions, and it got all, the holidays listed. That we should do one for the desks, a desk calendar. A lot of people have desk calendars, smaller, that just fits on the desk. I said, okay, sure. So I said, can I write some different captions here? I'll write some captions in the form of poems. I offered it. He said, okay, you do that. So therefore, I have these 12 paintings and poems that I wrote on that inspiration. So this one is a painting. I don't know if you've seen it. It's not the most famous painting, but Krishna's sitting out in the forest on this soft, seat there. And he's got a dove on his hand. And there's a little deer in front, and there's a swan, and there's a cow, all like nuzzling up. And he's there in beautiful self. So this illustrates that. There's the forest, beautiful forest. And it says, the sweetness of Shri Krishna's form beguiles. Still sweeter is his face like autumn moon. But sweeter than the sweetest is his smile, whose luscious beauty makes the gopi swoon. Govinda's beauty captivates the doves, the swans, the deer, the cows, and every tree. Indeed, in Braja, every creature loves Sri Krishna and is drowned in ecstasy. That all-enchanting land is paradise, our home, where we may dwell eternally. Most welcome there are those who pay the price to learn to love Sri Krishna perfectly. Okay, we have time for one more. Okay. So, let's see. Uradi kutamodadi dutabangam, navajada dadikitanola sadangam, yuvati vidaya dutamadanapadangam, panamati yamanda tatikitadangam. His flute emanates enchanting sounds for the girls whose love for him are bound, bow down to the cloud complexion Lord who's dancing upon the Kalindi shore. Okay, one more. You like that one so much. So this one is by... This is an old favorite, written by Bilvamangal Thakur. He wrote a lot of poems. There are a lot of verses that aren't in the Karnamrita. So this one, Krishna is throwing a fit. Now I have to remember, I taught this to Balaram. He had recently been initiated. It was a long time ago, and sometimes we chant it together. Nitam navanava nitam ke nitapitam bhaya kwame mudari itisamadhi yadantam bhumal balam namami gopalam. Who stole my butter? Who drank my milk? And where can my flute be found? I bow to the cowherd child who shouts these words as he rolls on the ground. He's just throwing a temper tantrum. All right, we better adjourn. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.